Recaster strolled through the Starlight Bazaar like she owned the place, which she didn't, but it was nice to pretend. Celestial Convergence was a swirling mess of alien cultures, each more bizarre than the last. Somewhere between the tentacle massage booths and the quantum coffee stands, human dignity got lost. But Ree was here to trade, not to judge. "Careful, Ree," muttered her assistant, Vex, a lanky guy with perpetual 5 o'clock shadow and a knack for stating the obvious. "Last time you looked that smug, we ended up bartering with a species that communicated through interpretive dance." "Relax, Vex," Ree said, eyeing a vendor who appeared to be selling sentient hats. "This is going to be easy. We just need to find the alien with the forbidden tech and not get killed trying to buy it. Piece of cake." The bazaar buzzed with life, or what passed for life in this corner of the universe. Creatures of every imaginable shape and some shapes that defied imagination hawked their wares in a cacophony of sounds that could only be described as the universe's longest-running bad joke. Ree loved it. "Name's Zephyr," said a voice that seemed to slither across the airwaves. Ree turned to find herself face to face, or face to whatever it was, with an alien who looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a tax audit. "And you, human, are looking for dangerous things." "Guilty as charged," Ree replied, grinning like a cat with a mouse cornered. "I've got a thing for cosmic impossibilities." Zephyr's form shimmered, rippling like a mirage. "Dangerous toys for a dangerous species, aren't you? Always poking at things better left alone." Vex snorted. "We're not that bad. We just like our toys with a side of potentially catastrophic consequences." "Why do you want to play with black holes?" Zephyr asked, its voice like silk wrapped around a knife. "Most would rather avoid being sucked into oblivion," Ree shrugged. "Call it a hobby. Besides, you never know when a portable black hole might come in handy. Maybe there's a universal sock thief out there and we're just trying to catch up with our missing pairs." Zephyr blinked, or at least did something that approximated blinking. "The universe does not care for your socks. Not yet anyway," Vex chimed in. "But give us time. Once we solve the black hole puzzle, socks are next." Zephyr's attention seemed to waver, like it was juggling multiple realities in its many-brained head. "Be warned, human, this technology. It is not just a toy. It is a doorway." "A doorway to what?" Ree asked, mostly out of politeness. She was already imagining the headlines. "Human diplomat opens doorway to hell. Socks still missing." "To things you cannot control," Zephyr said, its voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that made Ree lean in, half expecting it to offer her a candy from a shadowy van. "And once open, the doorway never closes." Ree pondered that for a moment, glancing at Vex, who was busy pretending not to be concerned. "Ever heard of an open-door policy, Zephyr? We're kind of into those." Zephyr's body wavered as if it was on the verge of dissipating. "Humanity is a stubborn species, I see." "Well, stubbornness is just a fancy word for persistence," Ree shot back. The bazaar around them seemed to pulse with a rhythm of commerce and clashing cultures. Somewhere, a creature resembling a sentient spatula was haggling over the price of a cursed amulet, and the air was heavy with the scent of strange spices and stranger deals. "Look, Zephyr," Ree said, shifting her tone to something that passed for sincerity. "We know what we're getting into, sort of. And let's be honest, someone's going to mess with black holes eventually. Might as well be us." Zephyr's many limbs did something that might have been a gesture of resignation or perhaps indigestion. "So be it, human. But when the universe comes knocking, do not blame this Zephyr for the consequences." Ree grinned, a smile that could unravel space-time or at least give it a good run for its money. "Wouldn't dream of it." "Now what do you want in exchange for this little piece of cosmic irresponsibility?" "Your curiosity and your courage," Zephyr replied enigmatically. Ree chuckled. "I think we can spare a bit of that. We've got plenty." "Also," Zephyr added, "a crate of Earth's finest chocolate. The universe doesn't taste anything like it." Vex raised an eyebrow. "That's it." "Chocolate?" Zephyr's form flickered, a galaxy of expressions in play. "Chocolate is a rare pleasure in the dark corners of existence." As Ree nodded, sealing the deal with a handshake, Or what passed for one when dealing with extra-dimensional entities? A thought crossed her mind. Say, Zephyr, you wouldn't happen to know anything about where all the missing socks go, would you? Zephyr's laughter echoed through the bazaar, a sound like stars colliding. Even cosmic horrors have their mysteries, human. The trade was done, the echoes of it lingering like a smell that wouldn't wash out. Re-watched as Zephyr and its kind faded into the background noise of the universe, leaving her with a small, ominous device and a warning she would surely ignore. So what now? Vex asked, eyeing the contraption as if it might explode, grow legs, or file a lawsuit. Now, Re mused. We play with fire, because why not? What's the worst that could happen? The universe implodes, Vex suggested helpfully. Well, if it does, at least we can say we went out with style, Re replied, tucking the device into her bag. Let's go find a nice, quiet star system to test this bad boy out. They navigated through the bazaar, dodging tentacles, dodging offers for everything from bottled time to philosophical debates in pill form. Ree couldn't help but feel a thrill of excitement tinged with dread. But wasn't that what humanity was all about? Charging headfirst into the cosmic unknown without a helmet, waving the flag of reckless curiosity. As they left the bustling heart of celestial convergence, Vex looked back with something akin to nostalgia or maybe just relief. Think we'll ever get used to this place? Nah, Ree said, grinning. And that's what makes it fun. The stars were bright and indifferent as they stepped onto their ship, the freshly acquired device humming ominously in Ree's bag. She could almost hear it whispering promises and threats in equal measure. You ready for this? She asked Vex, who was fiddling with the controls as if they might rebel at any moment. Ready as I'll ever be, Vex replied with a resigned shrug. Remind me again why we do this. Because we're human, Ree said, settling into the captain's chair. And because someone's gotta keep the universe on its toes. Vex laughed as the ship's engines roared to life, propelling them toward their next cosmic misadventure. In that case, let's go make some stars nervous. As they soared into the blackened expanse, Ree couldn't shake the feeling that they were just a couple of ants poking at a giant's toes, laughing at the sheer absurdity of it all. But then, wasn't that what made life worth living? The thrill of the unknown, the dance with danger, the possibility that today might be the day they made history, or at least a damn good story. They had a black hole manipulator in their grasp, a handful of dark chocolate for the journey, and an eternity of stars to explore. The universe was a dangerous place, and Ree wouldn't have it any other way. As the stars streaked by, Vex spoke into the silence. You know, someday this is all going to catch up with us. Ree nodded, watching as a shooting star blinked across the void. Yeah, but until then, let's see how much trouble we can get into. And with that, they were off, a human diplomat and her ragtag crew, charging headlong into the cosmic unknown with a wink and a smile, daring the universe to keep up. The bazaar and its warnings were behind them, the future a tapestry of possibility and peril. Ree knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, they would face it with sarcasm, a bit of luck, and maybe, just maybe, an extra pair of socks. The universe was calling, and Ree Castor was ready to answer, armed with a grin and a black hole in her pocket. Let the cosmic dance begin. Ree Castor leaned back in her seat, the hum of their ship's engines a comforting backdrop to her thoughts. The black hole manipulator, looking deceptively mundane, sat snug in her bag, whispering temptation like a devil on her shoulder. Somewhere in the cockpit, Vex was prodding at the controls with all the grace of a toddler with a new toy. The ship jerked slightly, as if even it was uncertain about the wisdom of their latest acquisition. Vex, you ever get the feeling we're just the universe's favorite punchline? Ree asked, tilting her head to catch his eye. Only every day, Vex muttered, squinting at the array of flashing lights before him. But hey, at least we have a front row seat to our own disaster movie. As the ship blazed through the cosmos, Ree's thoughts drifted to the collapsing star system they were heading toward. It was a mess of cosmic proportions, the kind that made lesser beings quake and smarter ones run. But not Ree. She had a black hole manipulator and a penchant for ignoring the obvious dangers. "Remind me again why we're doing this?" Vex asked, glancing over his shoulder. His tone was light, but his eyes were serious. "Because," Ree said, stretching her arms above her head, "someone needs to sort out that star system before it goes supernova and starts making everyone's day a whole lot worse." "Right? Cosmic janitors, that's us," Vex said. "But doesn't this defy, the laws of physics?" "Oh, absolutely," Ree replied with a grin. "But since when have we ever let a little thing like that stop us?" Vex sighed, a sound like wind through a broken accordion. "Just checking. Wouldn't want to miss out on the chance to throw the universe a curveball." Ree snorted. "Curveball? We're about to pitch the whole damn asteroid." Their destination loomed ahead, a star system on the brink of collapse. It was the kind of place that made you question your life choices. But then Ree had always been one for questionable choices. The ship's sensors flared with warnings as they drew closer, the system a chaotic dance of cosmic debris and fatalistic beauty. "So, what's the plan?" Vex asked, his fingers darting over the control panel with nervous energy. "Simple," Ree said, leaning in as if sharing a conspiratorial secret. "We stabilize the star with this nifty little device and pray it doesn't open a gateway to the next dimension over." "And if it does?" Vex inquired, already dreading the answer. "Then we'll be the first interdimensional tourists," Ree replied with a shrug. "Great. I've always wanted to visit a dimension where socks are the dominant life form," Vex deadpanned. As they pushed further into the heart of the dying system, Zepha's warning lingered, a ghostly echo in the back of Ree's mind. The potential benefits of succeeding were immense. Stabilizing the star could save countless lives, not to mention the trade routes that ran through the sector. But the risks? Well, let's just say they'd make a suicidal lemming think twice. "Any second thoughts?" Vex asked, his voice barely audible over the hum of the engines. "None worth mentioning," Ree shot back. "We either save the day or go out in a blaze of glory. Either way, it'll be one hell of a story." "Always the optimist," Vex said, shaking his head with a wry smile. "Remind me to nominate you for a Cosmic Darwin Award if things go south." "If they go south," Ree corrected, her confidence unwavering. "But they won't, trust me." Their ship slipped into orbit around the star, its tumultuous energy a swirling canvas of doom and hope. Ree could feel the pressure mounting, the weight of their decision like a boulder balanced on a pebble. But she couldn't back down now. Not when they were so close to making history, or at least, a particularly exciting footnote in a textbook. "All right, let's do this," Ree said, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. She reached into her bag, retrieving the black hole manipulator with the care of a bomb disposal expert diffusing a particularly temperamental explosive. "You're sure that thing won't vaporize us the moment it's switched on?" Vex asked, only half joking. "About as sure as I am that we're going to need a drink after this," Ree replied, flipping the device over in her hands. "Reassuring," Vex muttered, his fingers tapping a nervous rhythm on the armrest. With a deep breath, reactivated the device. It hummed to life with an ominous whir, a sound that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space-time. The ship's monitors flickered, displaying a dizzying array of data as the manipulator extended its influence over the star, pressing against the boundaries of possibility. Ree's heart raced, each beat a countdown to the moment of truth. Would it work? Could they really manipulate the forces that held the universe together without unraveling it all in the process? "Hold on to something," Ree advised, her knuckles white against the controls. As the manipulator did its work, a ripple of energy coursed through the star, a shiver in the cosmic fabric. The ship's sensors shrieked in alarm, a chorus of protests against their audacious interference. "Well, this is it," Vex said, watching the displays with wide eyes. "We're either about to be heroes or cosmic debris." The star pulsed, its light flickering like a candle in a hurricane. The manipulator's influence spread, a delicate dance with forces that should have been untouchable. And then, miraculously, the chaos began to settle. "Would you look at that?" Ree breathed, disbelief and triumph mingling in her voice. We did it. Vex let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. I can't believe it. We actually pulled it off. As if there was ever any doubt, Ree replied, her grin wide and unrepentant. Now, all we have to do is not screw it up. The star's newfound stability was a fragile thing, a precarious balance that required constant vigilance. As the realization of their achievement sank in, Ree felt a thrill of exhilaration tempered by the weight of responsibility. This won't hold forever, Vex pointed out, his tone more somber now. We'll need to keep an eye on it. We will, Ree promised, her mind already racing with plans and contingencies. But for now, we've bought the system some time. And that's more than anyone else was willing to risk. Quite the gamble, Vex acknowledged, admiration creeping into his voice despite himself. Gambling's in our blood, Ree said with a wink. And hey, even if we'd failed, at least we wouldn't have had to deal with the paperwork. As the ship pulled away from the star, Ree felt a sense of satisfaction that was rare in their line of work. They'd done the impossible, at least for now. The risks hadn't vanished, but they'd proven that humanity's reach exceeded even the most skeptical expectations. So, where to next? Vex asked, settling back into his seat with the ease of someone who'd just cheated death and lived to tell the tale. Wherever the universe decides to throw its next tantrum, Ree replied, her eyes on the stars. We've got a black hole manipulator, a sardonic attitude, and all the time in the world. Vex chuckled. I'll drink to that. With the star behind them and the future stretching out like an open road, Ree felt a rare sense of peace. They'd faced the impossible and come out on top, and as long as they kept moving, kept pushing the boundaries of what was possible, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. To the next adventure, Ree said, raising an imaginary glass, and may it be as wildly improbable as the last. Vex nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Here's hoping. As the ship sailed into the vast expanse, the universe stretched before them, an endless sea of potential and peril. Ree knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long time, she felt ready to face whatever came next. After all, she mused, what was life without a little risk, a little chaos, and a healthy dose of dark humor to get you through the worst of it? As they hurtled through the stars, Ree couldn't help but smile. They were just two humans in a universe that insisted on being unpredictable, and she wouldn't have had it any other way. The ship hummed a steady rhythm, a lullaby for the reckless and the bold, and Ree knew that whatever happened next, they'd meet it head-on, with wits sharpened and hearts unyielding. Together, they sailed into the unknown, daring the universe to try and stop them. And in the end, wasn't that the greatest adventure of all? Ree leaned back in her chair, a lopsided grin plastered across her face. So, Vex, what do you think are the chances of the universe giving us a break for once? Vex, ever the pessimist, gave her a look that could best be described as you have got to be kidding me. Considering our luck, I'd say the odds are about the same as a snowball's chances in a supernova. The navigation console beeped with an insistent urgency, dragging their attention back to reality. Zephyr, the jellyfish-like alien whose demeanor was about as warm as a tax audit, floated into the cockpit, his translucent tentacles wafting in the ship's recycled air. Ah, Zephyr, Ree greeted with faux enthusiasm. Here to bring sunshine and rainbows to our day. Zephyr's voice was as smooth as a smug IRS agent handing you an audit notice. I regret to inform you that the black hole manipulator's recent success has left it depleted of energy. It requires a recharge, and the only known energy source is a rare crystallized element found in the possession of the Action Syndicate. Ree groaned. Of course, it was never easy. The Action Syndicate, the same charming folks who think diplomacy means pointing the biggest gun, Vex chimed in, his sarcasm on full display. Well, at least they're consistent. It's nice to know some things in the universe never change. Precisely, Zephyr intoned, waving a tentacle in a manner that might have been a shrug. And they guard this energy source with the kind of fervor usually reserved for religious fanatics or tax collectors. Ree rubbed her temples, the weight of the cosmos pressing down with all the subtlety of an asteroid impact. So, what's our play? We can't exactly waltz in and ask politely. Zepha's tentacles shifted in what looked like a contemplative dance. Your species is noted for its adaptability. Perhaps a diplomatic approach could be attempted, Vex snorted. Our kind, diplomatic, we're more likely to negotiate with a punch to the face and a side of snark. And let's be honest, Ree here has the subtlety of a freight train. Ree shot him a look. Hey, I can be diplomatic. Remember that time with the Galactic Rebellion? Yeah, Vex replied, deadpan. You diplomatically told them to stick it where the sun don't shine and then stole their ship. Worked, didn't it? Ree said, unfazed. Zepha paused thoughtfully. Perhaps a combination of negotiation and subterfuge. A diversion could be created to facilitate the acquisition of the energy source. Ree perked up, her signature grin returning. Now you're speaking my language, Zepha. Let's come up with a plan that would make even the shadiest con artist proud. Vex sighed, knowing where this was heading. Here we go again. Another one of Ree's famous plans. The kind with a success rate hovering somewhere around don't hold your breath. But when they work, they're legendary, Ree countered. And besides, what's life without a little insanity? After a few hours of intense brainstorming which involved more than a few snarky remarks and a rather heated debate over the merits of bribery versus blackmail, they had a plan. It was risky, it was borderline insane, and it was theirs. All right, Ree said, standing up and stretching her arms. We're going to need a distraction. Something big enough to draw the Action Syndicate's attention away from their vault. Vex raised an eyebrow. And what exactly qualifies as a big enough distraction for a group of sociopathic mercenaries? Ree shrugged. Oh, I dunno. Maybe we fake a reactor meltdown. That usually gets attention. Zepha chimed in, his tone as dry as a Martian summer. Perhaps a diversion of a more subtle nature might be advisable. Ree waved a hand dismissively. Subtlety's never been my strong suit. We go big or we go home. Besides, I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. Vex rolled his eyes. And here I thought you were just happy to see me. Let's get a move on then, Ree said, ignoring the jab. Zepha, you take care of the tech. Vex, you're on distraction duty. And I'll be the one charming our way in. Charming, Vex interrupted, his voice laced with disbelief. Your idea of charming is more like menacing. Semantics, Ree replied with a wink. We've got a black hole manipulator to juice up, and I don't plan on letting a bunch of overgrown bullies with bad haircuts get in our way. As they approached the Action Syndicate's territory, the tension in the ship was palpable, like the calm before a cosmic storm. The Syndicate station loomed ahead, a sprawl of metal and menace orbiting a desolate moon. So what's our entry strategy? Vex asked, already flipping switches and adjusting the ship's approach vector. Ree grinned. We're doing this the old-fashioned way. Bluff our way in, cause chaos, grab the goods, and get the hell out. Vex gave her a sidelong glance. You know, Ree, your plans always sound like they were hatched by someone with a death wish. Hey, Ree replied, checking her gear. If we didn't want danger, we'd have stayed home knitting cosmic sweaters. Zepha, who had remained silent until now, added his own brand of optimism. I foresee a probability of success that favors the prepared and the bold. Ree and Vex exchanged a look. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to us, Vex deadpanned. With a deep breath, they activated the ship's communication array. Ree leaned into the microphone, adopting her best "I'm totally trustworthy" voice. This is the transport vessel Starfire requesting clearance to dock. We're here with special deliveries. The line crackled with tension. State your business, a gruff voice replied, skepticism practically dripping through the speaker. Ree flashed Vex a thumbs up. We've got a shipment of rare Silan spices straight from the outer colonies. Limited edition, very exclusive. The line was silent for a moment and Ree held her breath. Proceed to docking bay 3, the voice finally replied. See, Ree said, smirking. Easy as setting up a moonshine operation on a deserted asteroid. As they approached the docking bay, Vex muttered under his breath. Here's hoping they don't inspect those Silen spices too closely or we're toast. Relax, Ree replied, her confidence unshaken. Once we're inside, we just have to keep them distracted long enough to grab the energy source. The docking procedure was smooth, which only made Vex more nervous. I hate it when things go according to plan. Means the universe is saving up for something truly spectacularly awful, Ree shrugged. We'll cross that bridge when it's on fire. Inside the station, the atmosphere was a mix of organized chaos and looming threats. Syndicate guards patrolled with the air of people who'd attended one too many seminars on intimidation. All right, Zephyr, Ree whispered into her comm. Start the fireworks. A moment later, alarms blared, red lights flashing across the station. Zephyr's diversion had begun. The announcement of a reactor core breach sent personnel scrambling in every direction, panic rippling through the station like a well-timed wave. Vex gave a low whistle. I'll give it to you, Ree. When you plan chaos, you really plan chaos. Thank you, Ree replied, not breaking her stride as they made their way to the vault. I do aim to please. The vault was as imposing as they'd expected, a fortress of security measures and thick metal doors. Ree crouched at the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys with practiced ease. Never met a lock I couldn't pick, she said, her voice tinged with satisfaction as the massive door slowly creaked open. The energy source was there, shimmering in its crystalline glory. Ree held up the small container, her grin as triumphant as any pirate finding treasure. Bingo. Now let's get out of here before they realize Silen spices aren't actually a thing. As they made their escape, the station's intercom crackled to life. Security breach in progress. All personnel to stations. Looks like they're onto us, Vex commented, his pace quickening. Time to make ourselves scarce. They made it back to the ship just as chaos erupted behind them, the station's defenders rushing to contain the supposed reactor breach and the real intrusion. All aboard, Ree called as she jumped into the pilot's seat, her heart pounding with the thrill of the heist. Zephyr's in, Vex confirmed, closing the airlock. Punch it. Ree didn't need to be told twice. She slammed the controls forward and the ship roared to life, blasting out of the docking bay with a speed that made the stars blur. The station's defenses scrambled, but they were already too late. Ree's ship streaked through space, leaving chaos and confusion in its wake. Well, Ree said, her voice light with relief. That went smoother than expected. Vex gave her a sideways glance. Let's not make a habit of it. I'm starting to think I might actually enjoy breathing. Zephyr floated into the cockpit, his expression inscrutable as ever. The energy source is secured, an impressive feat considering the odds. Thanks, Zephyr, Ree replied, her grin wide and unrepentant. We aim to misbehave with style. With the ship safely away from the Action Syndicate's territory, they finally allowed themselves to relax. The tension of the heist ebbed, replaced by a shared sense of accomplishment. Remind me why we do this again, Vex asked, though his tone was more curious than accusatory. Because someone has to, Ree replied, her gaze fixed on the stars. And we're just crazy enough to pull it off. As the ship sailed through the vastness of space, the weight of their adventure settled over them like a comfortable cloak. Sure, the risks were astronomical, but so were the rewards. To surviving another day, Vex said, raising an imaginary glass. Ree nodded, a rare moment of sincerity crossing her face. And to whatever madness comes next. As they flew into the unknown, the universe sprawled out before them, unpredictable, dangerous, and utterly irresistible. And Ree, Vex, and Zephyr were ready to meet it head-on, with a black hole manipulator, a sardonic grin, and a whole lot of courage. Because in the end, life was nothing if not a gamble, and they were all in. Just as they thought they'd made a clean getaway, the ship's console lit up like a Christmas tree in a power surge. The alarms were wailing like a banshee with a hangover, and Ree slapped the console, trying to get it to shut up. What's this now? Vex groaned, his pessimism reaching new depths. Is this the part where we combust in a fiery ball of irony? Relax, it's just the proximity alert, Ree said, fiddling with the switches. Though, given our luck, it's probably a black hole trying to hug us. Zepha's voice crackled over the comm, disturbingly calm. Adjust course or risk gravitational distortion. Great, Vex said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Because that's exactly what we need right now. A tango with a cosmic vacuum cleaner. Ree shot him a look. You really know how to lighten the mood, don't you, Vex? The ship shuddered as Ree twisted the controls, nudging them away from the anomaly. The navigation console was still throwing a tantrum, beeping with all the insistence of a toddler denied candy. Zepha, any chance you can give me a hand here? Ree asked, her voice strained. Zepha floated in, all serene tentacles and unsettling calmness. The gravitational anomaly is most likely a residual effect from the manipulator's recent activity. Vex let out a breath. So, let's recap. We're on the run with a potentially unstable black hole manipulator heading into a collapsing star system. What could possibly go wrong? Ree grinned, the kind of grin that said she was embracing the chaos. Hey, at least it'll be memorable. You know how I love making a scene. Back in the Starlight Bazaar, things were taking a turn for the bizarre. The gravitational anomalies hadn't just followed Ree and her crew out into space. They were wreaking havoc among the stalls and shops, causing some unfortunate merchant to lose all his priceless antique vases to the unforgiving grasp of gravity. Ree patched a connection to the bazaar's comms. Hey, Hustle, she said, addressing the bazaar's self-proclaimed king of deals who was more con artist than diplomat. You seeing what I'm seeing on your end? Hustle's voice came back, a mix of irritation and amusement. You mean the impromptu zero-G sale? Yeah, it's a real hit. People are just falling for it. Any chance we're the cause? Ree asked, already knowing the answer but feeling it prudent to check. Well, let's see, Hustle replied, his sarcasm palpable. Considering you lot are the only ones with a black hole manipulator, I'd wager the blame squarely on your shoulders. Vex gave Ree a sidelong glance. So much for inconspicuous. Conspicuous is the new black, Ree shot back. Besides, it's not like we did it on purpose. Zepha, hanging back like an art critic at a particularly daring gallery, noted the gravitational anomalies are likely temporary. However, they indicate the manipulator is still destabilized. Translation? Vex asked, his patience thinning like cheap soup. Ree let out a breath. Translation: we're on borrowed time. We need to stabilize this thing before it decides to implode and take us with it. Fantastic, Vex said, his voice dripping with the enthusiasm of a man condemned to a diet of celery and despair. Another crisis to add to our ever-expanding collection. Look on the bright side, Ree said, trying to inject some optimism into the proceedings. We've got the energy source. Yeah, Vex muttered. And you know what they say, what doesn't kill you only makes you late with rent. As they edged closer to the celestial convergence, the chaotic crossroads of the universe, Ree felt the familiar prickle of a plan forming. Sure, it had the structural integrity of a pie crust, but at least it was something. All right, team, Ree said, mustering her best attempt at cheerfulness. We need to find somewhere safe to stabilize the manipulator, preferably somewhere that doesn't involve us turning into an episode of Space Ghosts. Vex was not convinced. And where exactly do you propose we find this magical safe haven? Fairyland. Close, Ree said, grinning like a shark with a secret. There's an old repair facility in the convergence. It's a bit of a ghost town now, but it's got the tech we need. Zepha tilted his head, the alien equivalent of raised eyebrows. A derelict facility. I'm sure nothing has gone horribly wrong with it in the years of neglect. Quit being such a ray of sunshine, Ree said. It's our best shot. As they approached the convergence, the ship's sensors began to pick up the familiar hustle and bustle of 1,000 different species all trying to sell, trade, or outright swindle one another in a blur of commerce and chaos. Ree maneuvered the ship through the crowded lanes, dodging errant craft and the occasional space debris with a skill born of necessity and a high tolerance for risk. Keep an eye out for any nastas, Ree told Vex, who was manning the weapons console with all the enthusiasm of a death row inmate at a needle convention. "Trust me," Vex said. "If anything uglier than my last date shows up, you'll know." The repair facility loomed ahead, a hulking mass of metal and forgotten dreams, orbiting the convergence like an unwelcome guest overstaying its welcome. It was the kind of place that looked like it had been home to more than its fair share of bad decisions. Eased the ship into a landing bay, the docking clamps engaging with a satisfying thud. The facility was dark, its power systems long since shut down, but had faced worse odds with less to her name. "All right, folks," said, standing and stretching like a cat readying for a nap. "Let's get to work." The interior of the facility was a labyrinth of corridors and darkened rooms, the kind of place that would make for a great setting in a horror flick. Led the way, her steps confident despite the eerie silence. "You know," Vex said, glancing around, "this is the kind of place where you expect a homicidal AI to pop out and offer you a nice cup of death." "Relax," said, though she couldn't help but double-check the shadows. "The only thing we have to worry about is our own ineptitude." "Comforting," Vex replied, his voice dry as desert sand. Zepha's bioluminescent glow provided a touch of light as they worked their way to the main control room. It was filled with panels and screens that looked like they'd been state-of-the-art around the time dinosaurs were considering the benefits of asteroid insurance. "All right, Zepha," said. "Think you can work your magic and get this place up and running?" Zepha floated over to the control panel, his tentacles moving in a blur of alien dexterity. "I will attempt to coax life back into this facility." "You make it sound so romantic," Vex quipped. "Do your thing, Jellybean." As Zepha worked, and Vex set about preparing the black hole manipulator for the stabilization process. It was like trying to defuse a bomb while blindfolded and under the influence of strong liquors. "Anything we should worry about?" Vex asked, watching work. "Nothing major," said. "Just the usual risk of catastrophic failure." "Ah, so just your average Tuesday," Vex replied. "Good to know." The lights flickered on with a hum, casting long shadows across the room. Zepha's efforts had paid off and the facility's systems were slowly coming back to life. "Power restored," Zepha announced, his tone as calm as ever. "Systems are operational." Gave him a thumbs up. "Great job. Now let's get this manipulator stabilized before it decides to redecorate the universe." With the facility's equipment at their disposal, the process of stabilizing the black hole manipulator began. It was a delicate operation, requiring precision and a touch more luck than any of them really felt comfortable relying on. As adjusted the settings, she couldn't help but feel the weight of their situation. They were outlaws on the run with a device that could potentially rip the universe a new one. It was a hell of a way to make a living. "Vex, keep an eye on those readings," instructed. "I don't want any surprises." "Surprises? In this line of work, perish the thought," Vex replied, his voice as sardonic as ever. Time seemed to stretch as they worked, each minute an eternity of tension. Heart pounded with the rhythm of a clock counting down to an unknown doom. "Steady," she muttered to herself, fingers dancing over the controls. Finally, with a soft whir and a few beeps of compliance, the manipulator settled into a state of relative calm. The tension in the room eased, like a collective breath finally released. "Stabilized," Zepha reported, his tone as serene as a monk on a particularly good day. "The manipulator is safe for now." Let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Nice work, team. We might just live to see another crisis." Vex leaned back, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "You know, I think that went rather well. Almost makes me believe we're not completely doomed." "Don't get too comfortable," warned, though her voice was light. "We've still got to get this thing recharged and out of here before anyone notices." "Ah, there it is," Vex said. "The inevitable reminder that our lives are a never-ending cycle of impending disaster." Shook her head, her grin wide. "Wouldn't have it any other way." As they prepared to leave the repair facility, couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, unpredictable and full of challenges waiting to be faced. But with her ragtag team by her side, she was ready to dive headfirst into whatever madness awaited. "Let's hit the road, folks," Ree said, her voice filled with determination. "We've got a universe to save, one misadventure at a time." With the black hole manipulator secure and their spirits buoyed by a rare moment of success, Ree, Vex, and Zephyr set off once more into the starry expanse, their journey far from over, their story just beginning. The ship's proximity alert was screaming like a toddler denied candy, and Ree was about as enthusiastic about it as a cat at a dog party. The ship lurched, the protest of metal on metal echoing through its corridors as they hit another gravitational pocket. Ree gripped the navigation console like it was the only thing tethering her to sanity, which, considering their current predicament, it probably was. "Fantastic," Vex muttered, staring at the flickering control screen. "Our ship's got all the stability of a drunk at a slippery wedding." Ree snorted, flicking switches and pressing buttons in a desperate bid to regain some semblance of control. "Hey, I resemble that remark." Zephyr, ever the picture of alien calm, floated behind them, his tentacles securing him in place. "The anomalies are intensifying. I suspect our previous actions have not gone unnoticed by the universe." "Well, isn't that just peachy?" Vex replied, his sarcasm dripping like a leaky faucet. "We saved the universe, and it's trying to thank us by tearing us apart. Typical." Ree's eyes darted to the display that was currently illustrating their many imminent demises in vivid detail. "We just need to hold together long enough to find a solution. Is that all?" Vex cracked a humorless grin. "And here I thought we were in deep shit." The ship pitched again, throwing Ree's stomach into her throat. She swallowed hard, trying not to imagine the ship as a can of soda being shaken by cosmic hands. All right. We need to get to the celestial convergence. Someone there's bound to have a solution." Vex raised an eyebrow. "And if they don't, then we die horribly. But at least we'll do it in style," Ree replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. The Starlight Bazaar was a blur, the gravitational anomalies making it look like a kaleidoscope gone wrong. Vendors were shouting, their wares floating in the zero-G dance like a surreal ballet. Ree maneuvered the ship through the chaos, the hull groaning with every twist and turn. "Welcome to the celestial convergence," Vex announced dryly, "where the only thing more unstable than the physics is the economy." They docked amidst a cacophony of alarms and shouts, the ship settling with a shudder as if grateful for a moment's rest. Ree unstrapped herself, shooting a glance at Vex. "Morale check," Vex shrugged. "Personally, I'm feeling about as chipper as a condemned man facing a firing squad. But hey, there's always room for a pleasant surprise." Zephyr glided towards the exit, his tentacles signaling calm reassurance. "Let us proceed. The solution may be closer than we anticipate." Ree couldn't help but smile at Zephyr's optimism. It was like finding a lily in a swamp. "All right, team. Let's get moving before our luck decides to take another nosedive." They entered the convergence, a disco of cultures where the universe's many races mingled, argued, and traded in a riot of color and noise. It was a place where hopeful dreams and shattered illusions collided like drunks in a bar brawl. Ree led them through the throng, her mind racing with possibilities. Someone here had to have what they needed, a way to recharge the black hole manipulator. Otherwise, they might as well start carving their epitaphs. A particularly aggressive vendor thrust a glowing trinket at Vex, who waved it away with a scowl. "No thanks. I'm trying to cut back on cursed artifacts this week." "Let's try Grenth's salvage," Ree suggested, eyeing the neon sign flickering like a dying star. "If anyone's got what we need, it's that old vulture." Grenth was an alien of indeterminate species, his shop a chaos of parts and gadgets crammed into every nook and cranny. He looked up as they entered, his eyes narrowing in suspicion or possibly a permanent scowl. "Recaster," he greeted, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Back from the dead, are we? Or just here for my soul to pawn?" "Neither," Ree said, stepping over a pile of suspiciously sparking wires. We need an energy source, something to recharge this. She held up the depleted black hole manipulator, its surface dull and lifeless. Grenth leaned back, regarding them with the kind of look usually reserved for particularly stubborn stains. "That's dangerous tech you got there. Tell me something I don't know," Ree replied, her tone as dry as a Martian dust storm. "Can you help us or not?" Grenth scratched his chin, the sound like sandpaper on concrete. "Might be I have something, but it'll cost you. And I mean more than your usual excuse for currency." Vex sighed, his patience thinner than a politician's promise. "Here we go." Ree exchanged a glance with Zephyr, whose tentacles twitched in what she hoped was a gesture of encouragement. "What do you want?" Grenth grinned, a toothy affair that was more shark than friendly. "There's a shipment, high-grade components. They got caught in a sector that's unstable. You get them for me, I'll see what I can do." Ree frowned. "What's in it for you?" Grenth chuckled, a sound that rattled like old bones. "Profit margin and staying in the game. Not getting squashed by the Action Syndicate for starters." "Figures," Ree muttered. "All right, you've got a deal. But if you double-cross us, I'll personally make sure your next business transaction involves a one-way trip to a black hole." As they left the shop, Vex shook his head. "I love it when we make friends." "Grenth's not so bad," Ree said. "He's just opportunistic." "You mean like a vulture with a business degree?" Vex countered. Zephyr floated beside them, his presence a calming influence. "We have a course of action, that is a start." "Yeah," Ree agreed, "a start. Now let's just hope it doesn't end with us as cosmic roadkill." They ventured deeper into the convergence, the path ahead feeling like a winding road through a minefield. The sector Grenth mentioned was notorious for its instability, a swirling mess of gravity wells that played havoc with ships and nerves alike. "Great," Vex said, checking the coordinates. "We're heading for the kind of place you'd send your worst enemy as a practical joke." Ree smiled grimly. Just another day in paradise. The journey was a tense one, the ship barely holding together as they navigated the turbulent sector. Gravitational fluctuations tugged at them from every direction, each turn a gamble with their lives. "Keep her steady," Ree instructed, as if it were as simple as giving directions to a grocery store. Vex grunted in response, his hands white-knuckling the controls. "Steady as she goes, Captain, till she doesn't." Their destination loomed ahead, a pocket of twisted space where the shipment had been lost. Ree could almost taste the danger in the air, a metallic tang that set her teeth on edge. "All right, team," she said, steeling herself for what was to come. "Let's get this over with." They hovered near the distorted wreckage, the ship groaning in protest as it fought against the gravitational chaos. Ree worked quickly, her fingers a blur on the console as she scanned for the shipment. "Found it," she announced, her voice tight with focus. "Vex, prepare for retrieval." "On it," Vex replied, his tone resigned. "Let's hope this crazy plan holds together." With calculated precision, they maneuvered the ship into position, grappling the cargo with mechanical arms that strained against the forces pulling them in every direction. "Got it," Ree said, relief lacing her words. "Now let's get the hell out of here." The ship shuddered as they wrestled free of the sector's grip, engines roaring as they powered through the maelstrom. It was a fight that left them breathless and battered but alive. "Well," Vex panted, slumping back in his seat, "that was about as fun as a root canal with a rusty drill." Ree laughed, her tension easing as they cleared the worst of the turbulence. "But we did it. Never doubted us for a second." Zephyr's tentacles rippled with approval. "A testament to our resilience, perhaps. Or our stupidity," Vex added. "But hey, who's counting?" They returned to Grenth's shop, the salvaged components in tow. The alien's eyes gleamed with greed and approval as he inspected the goods. "You delivered," Grenth grunted, a hint of respect in his tone. "Now it's my turn." True to his word, Grenth supplied the energy source they needed, a crystalline element that pulsed with power. Ree felt its weight in her hand, a tangible promise of survival. "Thank you," she said, her voice sincere despite the earlier threats. Grenth waved her off. "Just remember who your friends are, Recaster. Sometimes they're all you've got." With the energy source secured, they returned to their ship, a sense of accomplishment mingling with the ever-present dread of what lay ahead. "Let's get this charged and get out of here," Ree said, her determination resurfacing. "We've got a universe waiting to be saved, and probably another crisis waiting in the wings," Vex remarked, his sarcasm as constant as the stars. "Can't wait." Ree chuckled, the weight of their mission both a burden and a driving force. They were outmatched, outgunned, and almost certainly out of their minds. But as long as they drew breath, they'd keep fighting, because that's what you did when the universe refused to play fair. "All right, crew," Ree announced, a spark of defiance in her eyes. "Let's show the universe what we're made of." With renewed purpose, they set to work, the black hole manipulator humming with potential. It was a long road ahead, fraught with danger and uncertainty, but for Ree, Vex, and Zephyr, it was another day in the life of cosmic janitors, cleaning up messes, one universe at a time. Ree, Vex, and Zephyr sat around the ship's console, the recently acquired crystalline element humming with potential energy like a caffeinated squirrel, in a forest of complacency. The black hole manipulator sat in the center of the room, its surface gleaming with a new energy that promised salvation, or at least a temporary reprieve from their perpetual cosmic bad luck. Ree tapped her fingers on the console and glanced at her companions. "All right, folks, we've got a plan, a shiny new energy source, and a ship that's barely holding together. Let's not screw it up." Vex raised an eyebrow, his expression the epitome of skepticism. "Ah, optimism. The rich, creamy lie we tell ourselves when the universe is trying to kill us." Zephyr's tentacles rippled with what Ree hoped wasn't judgment. "Your resolve is commendable, Ree. Let us proceed with prudent haste." "Prudent haste," Vex repeated, shaking his head. "Sounds like a polite way of saying run like hell." Ignoring Vex's commentary, Ree leaned forward, activating the manipulator's interface. The crystalline element began to glow, its light casting eerie shadows across their faces. It was beautiful in a way that only things with the potential to annihilate you could be. "Let's get this baby charged," Ree said, her voice full of determination mingled with a healthy dose of apprehension. "Vex, keep an eye on the power levels. Zephyr, let me know if you sense any gravitational anomalies creeping up on us." "Yes, Captain Obvious," Vex replied, flipping switches and dials like he was auditioning for a role in a retro sci-fi holoflick. "I'll be on high alert for anything that wants to turn us inside out." Zephyr's tentacles swayed in agreement. "I shall maintain vigilance." With the manipulator slowly recharging, Ree allowed herself a moment of cautious optimism. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn this ship around and avoid becoming space debris in the collapsing star system. Suddenly, the ship's proximity alert blared to life, its shrill tone a reminder that the universe had not finished with them yet. The navigation console flashed with warnings, each more dire than the last. Ree groaned. "What now?" Vex scanned the readouts, his expression turning from sarcastic to grim. "We've got company. And by company, I mean a gravitational pocket that's about to say hello in a very personal way." "Can we dodge it?" Ree asked, already knowing the answer wouldn't be what she wanted to hear. "Not unless this ship's got a hidden turbo mode that I don't know about," Vex replied, his hands flying over the controls. "But hey, I've been wrong before, once, in 3017. Ree's mind raced, searching for a solution that didn't involve becoming a new constellation. Then an idea struck. It was risky, untested, and downright insane. In short, it was perfect. "Listen up," Ree said, her voice carrying an edge of desperation. "Zephyr, I need you to use your tentacles to stabilize the ship. Vex, I want you to push the engines to their limits." Vex's eyebrows shot up. "You mean the limits that are currently non-existent because we're running on duct tape and dreams?" "Exactly," Ree replied, her eyes gleaming with the kind of wild determination that made leaders or fools. "We give it everything we've got and maybe, just maybe, we punch through." Zephyr nodded, his tentacles extending to brace against the ship's walls. "This course of action is unconventional." "Unconventional is my middle name," Ree said, flashing a grin that was more manic than confident. Thought it was catastrophe, Vex muttered, but he flipped the necessary switches anyway, the engines roaring to life like an angry beast stirred from slumber. The ship bucked and groaned under the strain, the gravitational pocket drawing closer with every heartbeat. Ree gripped the console, her knuckles white with tension as the ship pushed forward against insurmountable odds. "Come on, you hunk of junk," Ree urged, willing the ship to respond, to defy the universe's relentless attempts to snuff them out. Vex was a blur of motion, adjusting controls and rerouting power with the kind of grim focus usually reserved for surgeons and bomb diffusers. "If this works, I'm buying us all around at the nearest space dive." "Deal," Ree agreed, her voice tight with strain. The gravitational pocket loomed ahead, its presence an oppressive force that threatened to crush them into oblivion. But their combined efforts, human, alien, and machine, held firm, the ship pressing onward through the storm of space-time. "Almost there," Ree whispered, as if her words could coax the universe into cooperation. Almost. With a final shuddering lurch, the ship broke free, the gravitational pocket slipping past like a missed opportunity for disaster. Silence fell, the ship's interior thrumming with the aftershocks of their desperate maneuver. Ree exhaled, her pulse still racing. "We did it." Vex sank back in his seat, breathless but grinning. "Well, knock me over with a supernova." "We actually did it." Zepha's tentacles relaxed, their calming presence a balm to frayed nerves. "A testament to our collective efforts." "Yeah," Vex said, flashing a lopsided grin. "And maybe a little bit of dumb luck." Ree couldn't help but laugh, the sound a release of tension and triumph. "I'll take luck any day." It's about time it showed up. With the immediate threat behind them, Ree turned her attention back to the black hole manipulator. The crystalline element glowed with renewed energy, promising a chance to set things right. "Okay, team," Ree said, her voice filled with renewed determination. "Let's finish this." Under their combined efforts, the manipulator continued to charge, its power building towards the threshold they needed. It was a delicate balance, requiring precision and a steady hand. "Careful," Vex cautioned, his usual sarcasm edged with genuine concern. "One slip and we're all going to find out if there really is a cosmic afterlife." "Thanks for the pep talk," Ree replied, focusing intently on the readings. "But I've got this." Zepha's tentacles curled in encouragement. "Your skills are beyond question, Ree. Flattery will get you everywhere," Ree said, flashing a brief smile. "But right now, let's focus on not dying." The manipulator's energy levels rose steadily, the crystalline element reaching critical mass. It was a moment of truth, a culmination of their efforts and risks taken. "Almost there," Ree murmured, her voice a blend of anxiety and hope. The manipulator reached full charge, its potential humming in the air like static before a storm. It was ready, poised on the edge of unleashing a force that could alter their fate. "All right," Ree said, steeling herself for the next step. "Let's make this count." With a deft touch, Ree activated the manipulator, directing its energy towards stabilizing the collapsing star system. It was a gamble, a leap of faith into the unknown, but in that moment she knew it was their best shot. The ship's systems hummed with power, the manipulator working to counteract the gravitational chaos that threatened to consume them all. It was a delicate dance, a balancing act between control and chaos. "Hold steady," Ree instructed, her focus unwavering. Vex monitored the readings, his usual sarcasm giving way to quiet dedication. "We're holding. Just keep it together, Ree." Zepha's presence was a steadying influence, his tentacles conveying a sense of calm. "We are with you." The manipulator's energy pulsed outward, a ripple of force that spread through the star system. It was a moment of pure tension, the outcome teetering on a knife's edge. Then with a final surge, the manipulator succeeded, stabilizing the system and averting disaster. The ship's sensors confirmed the result, the danger passed. "We did it," Ree breathed, her relief palpable. Vex let out a whoop of triumph, his grin wide. "Damn right we did. Drinks are on me." Zepha's tentacles rippled in approval. "A successful endeavor, thanks to your leadership, Ree." Ree chuckled, the weight of their victory sinking in. Team effort, Zephyr. Couldn't have done it without you. With the threat neutralized and their mission accomplished, the trio allowed themselves a moment of celebration. It was a hard-won victory, a testament to their resilience and refusal to surrender to the universe's capricious whims. "All right," Ree said, her voice full of resolve. "Let's get out of here and find the nearest dive. I'm in the mood to celebrate." The ship turned away from the now stable star system, their course set for a well-deserved respite. It had been a long, grueling journey, but they had persevered, each step a testament to their determination and camaraderie. "To surviving another day," Vex toasted, raising an imaginary glass. "To defying the odds," Zephyr added, his tentacles mimicking the gesture. "And to being cosmic janitors," Ree concluded, a grin on her face. "Cleaning up the universe, one disaster at a time." Their laughter filled the cockpit, a sound of triumph and camaraderie echoing through the ship. It was a moment of unity, a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, they could find light and laughter. With renewed purpose and a newfound sense of hope, they set their course for the next adventure, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them with wit, determination, and a healthy dose of irreverence. Because, as Ree knew all too well, when the universe refused to play fair, you might as well meet it with a grin and a defiant middle finger. Recaster leaned back in her seat with a sigh, watching the black hole manipulator hum and glow like a cosmic disco ball. "Well, folks, it looks like we just flipped the universe the bird and survived the fallout." "You say that like you expected a different outcome," Vex said, raising an eyebrow. "I thought you had a plan." "Plan? Oh, you mean my spontaneous leap into the unknown?" "Yeah, that was totally a plan," Ree replied, grinning. "But hey, even a blind space rat finds a wormhole sometimes." Zephyr's tentacles undulated lazily as if they were lounging on a sunlit beach rather than the cramped cockpit of a barely held-together ship. "Your instincts were correct, Ree. We have triumphed." "Triumphed is a strong word," Vex muttered, eyeing the flickering lights on the console. "More like avoided a spectacularly final end." "Look, if you want to get technical, sure," Ree conceded, waving a dismissive hand. "But right now, let's just bask in our non-deadness, okay?" The ship creaked ominously, a reminder that it was held together by nothing more than desperation and a healthy disrespect for physics. The manipulator continued its work, stabilizing the star system with a grace that belied its cobbled-together nature. "Do you think the Action Syndicate will be upset that we borrowed their energy source?" Zephyr asked, his tentacles forming a thoughtful steeple. "Borrowed? Oh, sweet Zephyr," Ree chuckled. "Let's not pretend we're bringing it back. They can be as upset as they want. They'll have to find us first. Besides, we left them a nice thank you note." Vex leaned forward, squinting at a particular display. "I can't believe it, but the star system's actually holding steady. I guess sometimes the universe decides to cooperate after all. Or maybe it just ran out of ways to screw us," Ree countered, tapping her fingers on the console with nervous energy. "But let's not push our luck. Luck's been a fickle friend," Vex said. "But you know what? I'll take it over certainty any day. Certainty's boring as hell." The ship's sensors pinged with the soothing regularity of a heart monitor, confirming the star system's newfound stability. The cosmic chaos had been tamed, at least for now. Ree took a deep breath, feeling the weight of their success settle in. "So what's next on the agenda?" Vex asked, his voice light despite the gravity of their recent ordeal. "We return to the Starlight Bazaar," Ree said, her voice brimming with satisfaction, "and see what kind of trouble we can stir up there." Zephyr's tentacles twitched in what could only be described as excitement. "I do miss the bazaar's unique charms. The interpretive dance negotiations, the questionable produce. Such an exotic place. Try not to spend all our credits," Ree warned, shooting Zephyr a wry glance. "We need to stock up on supplies, not souvenirs." "Of course," Zephyr replied, his tentacles mimicking a salute. "My interests are purely scientific and gastronomical. Just make sure your research doesn't involve anything that'll make us glow in the dark," Vex joked, as he set the ship's course back to the bazaar. The ship's engine growled to life, a reluctant beast roused from slumber. They set off toward the swirling chaos of the Starlight Bazaar, their destination a bright spot in the otherwise dreary expanse of space. "Think they'll throw us a party when we get back?" Vex asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. "If by party you mean a long list of grievances and IOU, then sure," Ree laughed. "But I'm okay with that. We've earned our place in the cosmic pecking order today." The ship drifted into the bazaar's orbit, weaving through the gravitational anomalies like a dancer through raindrops. The place was as chaotic and vibrant as ever, a testament to the resilience of life in the universe's backwaters. As they approached their docking bay, Ree's gaze swept over the familiar sights, a kaleidoscope of creatures peddling wares and making deals in every conceivable and some inconceivable language. It was a place where reality took a backseat and possibility reigned supreme. "Home sweet chaos," Vex quipped, guiding the ship to a less than graceful landing. The docking clamps engaged with a reassuring clunk, and Ree released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "All right, team," she said, standing up and stretching her arms. "Let's see what the bazaar has in store for us today." Zepha's tentacles brushed the controls in a gesture of farewell, and together they exited the ship, stepping into the vibrant, cacophonous world of the Starlight Bazaar. The bazaar was as overwhelming as ever, a riot of sights, sounds, and smells that assaulted the senses. Ree led the way, weaving through the crowds with practiced ease, Vex and Zepha flanking her like mismatched bodyguards. A vendor hawked glowing trinkets, his voice rising above the din. "Get your guaranteed good luck charms, only slightly cursed." "Those sound legit," Vex joked, casting a sideways glance at Ree. "Probably less cursed than our current luck," Ree replied, her tone dry. "But I'll pass." They moved deeper into the bazaar, the gravitational anomalies creating unexpected shifts in direction that sent stalls swaying and patrons stumbling. It was a chaos they navigated with the ease of familiarity. Ree's attention was caught by a booth man by a species she couldn't quite name, its 6 limbs moving in a coordinated dance that seemed to convey both a greeting and a sales pitch. "What's it selling?" Zepha asked, his tentacles echoing the creature's movements in an attempt at communication. "Who knows?" Ree shrugged. "But I'm pretty sure the exchange rate involves some interpretive dance moves I'm not prepared to learn." As they continued their trek through the bazaar, the shadows began to lengthen, casting the stalls in a twilight glow. The marketplace never truly slept, but there was a brief lull when the frenetic pace slowed to a manageable chaos. "Think we should check in with that contact from the Action Syndicate," Vex suggested, his voice low. Ree nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Yeah, we should, but let's play it cool. We don't need them knowing we swiped their energy source." "Right," Vex agreed. "They'd probably take it personally." Their contact was an enigmatic figure known simply as Lark, and Ree had learned the hard way that trusting Lark was like trusting a black hole not to swallow you whole. Still, Lark had his uses, and Ree was nothing if not practical. They found him in a shadowy corner of a cantina, nursing a drink that looked like it could power a small city. Lark was lanky, with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. "Ree," Lark drawled, his voice a lazy purr, "I heard you had a little adventure." "Adventure's my middle name," Ree replied, taking a seat across from him. "You got any news for me?" "Depends what kind of news you're looking for," Lark said, tipping his glass in a mock salute. "Good, bad, or ugly?" "Start with the ugly," Vex interjected, leaning against the wall with casual ease. "Right to the point, I like that," Lark grinned, showing too many teeth. "The Action Syndicate is sniffing around. Seems they're missing something shiny and powerful." Ree's expression didn't change, but inside she was cursing every god she'd ever heard of. "Can't imagine why they'd think we'd know anything about that." "Of course not," Lark said, his grin widening. "But just in case, I'd be careful. They're not known for their forgiving nature." "Appreciate the tip," Ree said, her voice steady. "We'll keep it in mind." Lark leaned back, crossing his arms. "Your turn. Any juicy tidbits to share?" Ree considered her words carefully. The star system's stable. For now. Lark's eyebrows shot up, genuine surprise flickering across his face. You actually did it. Impressive. What can I say? Ree said, flashing a cocky grin. We're cosmic janitors cleaning up the messes everyone else is too scared to touch. Well, keep me in the loop, Lark said, raising his glass. I do love a good story, especially when it involves sticking it to the syndicate. As they left the cantina, Ree's mind whirled with possibilities and contingencies. The Action Syndicate was a complication they could do without, but there was little choice now. They'd made their play, and now it was time to see how the pieces fell. That went well, Vex said dryly, falling into step beside her. Could have been worse, Ree replied. We just need to stay a few steps ahead, nothing we haven't done before. And if we can't, Zephyr asked, his tentacles curling slightly. Then we improvise, Ree said, a determined glint in her eyes. And hope we're faster than their trigger fingers. They continued their trek through the bazaar, the vibrant chaos wrapping around them like an old, familiar cloak. For better or worse, it was a place they knew, a place where they could duck and weave through the universe's whims. As they passed by a stall selling dubious-looking food items, Vex snorted. Think those are edible? Only one way to find out, Ree replied, shooting him a daring grin. You first, Vex said, holding up his hands in mock surrender. Some things even I won't risk, Ree laughed, steering them away from the potential digestive hazard. They wandered the bazaar for a while longer, reacquainting themselves with the chaos they called home. It was a momentary respite, a chance to breathe before they delved back into the maelstrom of galactic politics and intrigue. Despite the looming threat of the Action Syndicate, Ree felt a flicker of hope. They'd stabilized the star system, they'd survived, and they were still here, ready to face whatever the universe hurled at them next. Let's head back to the ship, Ree said, turning toward the docks. I think I've had enough excitement for one day. As they made their way back, Ree couldn't help but smile. They'd done the impossible, and they'd do it again if they had to. Because they were the cosmic janitors, and they weren't about to let a little thing like the universe get in their way. Recaster strode through the Starlight Bazaar, a sieve of chaotic potential and cosmic debris, spoils of their recent galactic janitorial work. She tried not to look like someone with a target on her back, which was difficult when you were practically a walking bullseye in a place where everyone could be your executioner or your next best friend. Feels like we've moved up a rung on the cosmic ladder, Vex remarked, glancing around with eyes that didn't miss an opportunity for skepticism. Or maybe just closer to the edge of the plank. Same difference in this universe, Ree replied, sidestepping a vendor who was trying to sell what looked suspiciously like grilled rodent parts. We've got more respect, sure, but also more folks who'd enjoy seeing us in the vacuum. Zephyr slithered beside them, his tentacles casually exploring the surroundings with the curiosity of a child and the subtlety of a boisterous drunk. The air reeks of potential and desperation, a delightful blend, he mused, his appendages performing an idle dance. A reminder that we're not the only ones desperate to defy cosmic odds. The trio had earned their place in the bazaar's curious ecosystem, a place where laws were more like suggestions, and every transaction could be your last if you weren't careful. Ree let herself indulge in a fleeting moment of pride before the looming shadow of the Action Syndicate came to mind. They had stabilized a collapsing star system, sure, but at the cost of pissing off one of the most dangerous groups in the galaxy. A typical Tuesday. As they wandered, Ree found herself reflecting on the peculiar spirituality that seemed to permeate their line of work. Sure, they were dealing with black holes and gravitational anomalies, but there was something profoundly spiritual about manipulating the very fabric of the universe, like playing God, if God had a black sense of humor and a penchant for creating problems that required fixing. Vex interrupted her musings with a nudge. Spotted Lark again. He's either stalking us or he's really bad at hiding. Ree followed Vex's gaze, and sure enough, there was Lark, lurking with all the elegance of a shadow in a rainbow. Ree sighed. Guess we're more interesting than I thought. They approached Lark, who lounged against the wall with an air of nonchalance that suggested he was either very confident or very stupid. "Ree," he greeted, his grin as sharp as a knife's edge. "Back for more. Just can't stay away from your charming personality," Ree deadpanned. "Any updates from our favorite syndicate?" Lark shrugged, a gesture that conveyed an ocean of shrugged responsibilities. "They're still sniffing around. Heard they've started questioning their own people. You know, the who's got the loser morals type of inquisition. Lucky for us, their list is probably longer than my patience," Vex quipped, earning a nod from Ree. "Indeed," Lark replied, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Which means the longer you keep your heads down, the better." Ree and her crew were already halfway out when Lark called after them, "Oh, and Ree, you ever consider expanding your cleaning operations? Got a system that could use a good scrubbing. Send us the details," Ree tossed back, not slowing her pace. "Just don't expect a family discount." As they left Lark behind, Ree felt a mix of dread and exhilaration settle in her gut. The respect they'd gained in the bazaar was a double-edged sword, sharp enough to cut them down if wielded by the wrong hands. Yet there was a sense of opportunity in the air, a window of potential that could propel them into a whole new realm of influence. "I'll admit," Zeph mused, his tentacles manipulating the air in a contemplative dance. "The prospect of overseeing more than just cosmic disasters is intriguing. Imagine the data I could collect. Just don't forget, data's useless if you're dead," Vex reminded, his tone dry as the Martian desert. "And dead is what we'll be if we underestimate the syndicate, which is why we'll need to think a few steps ahead," Ree said, her mind already spinning with possibilities. "We've got to play this right, balance the chaos with calculated risks." Their stroll through the bazaar continued, Ree's mind switching gears as the implications of their newfound power settled in. It wasn't just about stabilizing star systems anymore. They were players in a much bigger game, and the stakes had never been higher. They passed by a stall with a bright, neon sign reading Interstellar Investments, manned by a creature with too many eyes and not enough discernible features. Ree chuckled to herself. Maybe their next investment could be in peace and quiet, though she doubted that was a commodity they could afford anymore. As they made their way back to their ship, the ambient noise of the bazaar hummed around them like a chaotic symphony, a reminder of both their success and the precarious position they now found themselves in. "Think this'll change anything?" Vex asked, breaking the comfortable silence as they neared the docks. "Everything changes and nothing changes," Ree replied, her voice thoughtful. "We've got more respect, sure, but it comes with a big fat target on our backs. We'll have to be smarter, quicker." "Which we're not exactly known for," Vex said, his grin wry. "But hey, what's life without a few cosmic curveballs?" As they boarded their ship, Ree couldn't help but feel a sense of kinship with it. Both were held together by little more than desperation and a reckless disregard for physics. But they'd survived this far, and that counted for something. Once inside, Ree took her place at the console, fingers tapping out a rhythm that had become second nature. The ship's interior was a familiar clutter of technology, spare parts, and reminders of past escapades. It was home in all its chaotic glory. "So what's the plan, fearless leader?" Vex asked, sliding into his seat with a casual grace. "First, we lay low. See how the syndicate's investigation plays out," Ree said, pulling up a map on the screen. "Then we keep our ears open for opportunities. If we're lucky, we'll find a job that pays well and doesn't end with us floating in space." Optimistic as ever, Vex smirked, though there was an undercurrent of sincerity beneath his teasing. Zephyr settled into his corner, tentacles rearranging themselves in an intricate pattern. "And what of the spiritual implications of our actions? We have dabbled in forces beyond comprehension." Ree considered his words, a smile tugging at her lips. "If there's a cosmic deity keeping score, we're probably way over budget. But maybe that's the point, embracing the chaos and finding our own meaning in the mess." The ship hummed to life, its engines purring like a contented beast. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead, armed with a blend of cynicism, humor, and a healthy dose of reckless optimism. "And if we fail?" Zephyr asked, his voice a soft curiosity. "Then we fail spectacularly," Ree said, a mischievous glint in her eye. "And make sure everyone knows we went down swinging." With their destination set and their course charted, the ship lifted off, leaving the chaotic embrace of the Starlight Bazaar behind. For now, they'd play the part of cosmic janitors, cleaning up messes and stirring up trouble wherever they went. As they soared through space, Ree allowed herself a moment of reflection. They'd achieved something remarkable, something that defied the universe's relentless indifference. And in doing so, they'd carved out a niche for themselves, a place where respect, power, and danger intertwined in a volatile dance. "Here's to us," Ree said, raising an imaginary glass. "The universe's unlikely heroes," Vex chuckled, raising his own invisible toast. "And here's to the cosmic messes we'll make cleaning up." Zephyr's tentacles joined in the gesture, a silent agreement to the toast. "To the chaos we embrace," he added solemnly, though the twinkle in his eyes belied his serious tone. As they zipped through the void, the universe stretched out before them, a tapestry of endless possibilities, most of which involved certain death or glorious success. But for Ree and her crew, it was simply another day at the office, another chance to dance on the edge of disaster with a grin on their faces and a joke at the ready. And as they traveled, Ree felt a sense of peace settle over her. It wasn't the kind of peace that came from certainty or safety, but the kind that came from knowing they were exactly where they were meant to be. In the heart of the chaos, in the dark corners of space where only the brave or foolish tread, Ree Castor found her purpose. She'd step into the void, armed with her wits, her crew, and a never-ending supply of snark. Together, they'd face whatever the universe threw their way, and they'd do it with a smile. Because in the end, that's what it meant to be a cosmic janitor, cleaning up messes, making a difference, and having a hell of a good time doing it.